Ladies and gentlemen, the following segment of the podcast is presented exclusively by the Heritage Foundation. For 52 years, Heritage has fought tirelessly for America's founding principles and advancing conservative public policies. Much more than a think tank, Heritage is a conservative policy powerhouse, fighting for the everyday American to advance common sense policies and dismantle the D.C. bureaucracy. Our founding fathers gave us an extraordinary system of government, and the Heritage Foundation is dedicated to defending the heritage and carrying on their legacy for future generations. So get involved by completing their national survey on President Trump's agenda by visiting heritage.org/Levin. That's heritage.org/Levin. Paid for by the Great Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Somebody told me there's going to be a new book out, Mr. Producer, on July 29th. I'm not even supposed to mention that, am I, Mr. Producer? You can't find it anywhere. It's not on Amazon. I'm just looking at it because I just finished it. You're going to love this, love it. I know there's a lot of books out. Some people wrote them, most did not. But it doesn't matter. It won't be what I'm going to be offering to you because I write these for you in the audience. All these books people write about themselves. I'm not writing a book about myself. I wrote a book, Rescuing Sprite. It's the second book I ever wrote. It's about the family and our dog, and I did it really because it was very depressing. We had to put our little baby to sleep, and Simon and Schuster, I had to deal with them to write a book, and I said, I'm not writing a book anymore. And then David Limbaugh, my lawyer, suggested, maybe you can write a book about your family and the dog and the implications of that. I said, well, maybe I can. And then Simon & Schuster came back and said, we have an idea. We will do that book, then the other book. So we did that book called Rescuing Sprite. And the other book that almost didn't get written was called Liberty and Tyranny, Mr. Producer. So that's how this got going. I'm not even going to tell you the title of this or anything else because, number one, I don't want to get my hand slapped. But number two, it can wait. It can wait 2 weeks. You know, it's so frustrating, is it not, America? Every day, 3 or 4 of these left-wing judges reversing decisions that the President of the United States has made. In fact, it's so bad. Rather than talk about what they've blocked, it's easier to talk about what they haven't blocked. We literally have the government being run now by about 20 to 30 federal district judges out of their courtrooms, out of their conference rooms with their 2 or 3 recently graduated law school clerks. I can promise you that is not our constitutional system. AP, a judge today, blocked the Trump administration from immediately enacting certain changes to how federal elections are run, including adding a proof of citizenship requirement to the federal voter registration form. The decision is a setback for President Trump. No, it's a setback for America. These judges are doing the dirty work of the Marxists, the Islamists, and the Democrat Party. The president has argued the requirement is needed to restore public confidence in elections. Since when did it become controversial to show that you're a citizen in order to register to vote? That's number one. Number two, since when is that not a presidential activity? And you're talking about a federal election form. That's number two. But the judge allowed other parts of Trump's sweeping executive order, as AP puts it, on U.S. elections to go forward for now, including a directive to tighten mail ballot deadlines around the country. So, honest to God, ladies and gentlemen, this is so grotesque. I could tell you who these judges are. U.S. District Judge Colleen Collar Cotelli. Interesting that AP doesn't tell you who appointed her. I'd have to look it up. I think it's Obama. Sided with voting rights groups and Democrats. Since when do voting rights groups have standing in a case like this? Saying that the Constitution gives the power to regulate federal elections to states and Congress, not the president. She noted federal lawmakers are currently working on their own legislation to require proof of citizenship to vote. Doesn't matter. President can work on it too. In a 120-page decision, she said the plaintiffs had proven that the proof of citizenship requirement would cause their clients irreparable harm. She's a friggin' liar. Proof of citizenship will cause irreparable harm? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And go against the public interest while the government had offered almost no defense of the president's order on the merits. These things have been litigated from one end of the country in one court after another for 20 years, taking on the Democrats in the various state elections. There is and we've litigated some of them, Landmark Legal Foundation. There's absolutely no basis for the argument that people will be irreparably harmed if they're required to demonstrate they're citizens in order to register to vote. That's not a hill too hard to climb, let alone a mountain. Let alone a mountain. It's so outrageous what's happened here. Accordingly, she granted a preliminary injunction to stop the citizenship requirement from moving forward while the lawsuit plays out. She also blocked part of the Republican president's order requiring public assistance enrollees to have their citizenship assessed before getting access to the federal voter registration form. So what this phony judge has done, let's be honest, is what she's done is she's helped the Democrats by taking all the fraud barriers out of the president's order. Number one, you have to show you're a citizen. No, you don't. Number two, if you're getting public assistance, you have to show that you are a citizen. You don't just get, because you're on public assistance, a pass and you can register to vote. And so she's trying to help the Democrats because the Democrats are hell-bent on corrupt elections. And then when you call them out, do you have proof? Do you have proof? Well, here's proof right here. You and your judge have decided that you don't have to show citizenship, and if you're on a public assistance payroll, you don't have to show that you're on assistance either. That's it. Now, that's a lot of illegal aliens. Let's be honest. There's a lot of fraud on these public assistance payrolls. She knows it, this judge. She denied other requests from a group of Democrat plaintiffs, including refusing to block Trump's order to require all mail ballots to be received by Election Day nationwide. She also did not touch Trump's order to open certain databases to billionaire Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. The judge said those arguments brought by Democrats were either premature or should be brought by states instead. No, because she shot the heart out of what the president was doing. The plaintiffs had argued Trump's proof of citizenship requirement violated the Constitution's so-called elections clause, which gives states and Congress the authority to determine how elections are run. It always fascinates me. Which part of the Constitution they'll uphold, which part of the Constitution they embrace the original language or not. They also argued Trump's order asserts power that he does not have over an independent agency. Well, if he has no power over an independent agency, then that agency is unconstitutional because there's 3 branches of government and that's it. And that's it. Aria Branch, counsel for the DNC and other Democratic plaintiffs, also argued the executive order's effort to tighten mail ballot deadlines would irreparably harm her clients by forcing them to reallocate resources to help voters navigate the changes. You understand? It irreparably harms their voters to prove that they're citizens. It irreparably harms their voters who are on public assistance roles to show that they're citizens. And he or she, Aria, argues that it irreparably harms their clients if you tighten the mail deadline and have a ballot deadline. I'm sorry, does voting really irreparably harm their clients? No, of course not. Now, Michael Gates, counsel for the Trump administration, said in the hearing a preliminary injunction wasn't warranted because the order hadn't been implemented and a citizenship requirement would not be on the federal voter registration form for many months. Roman Palomas, president of the League of United Latin American Citizens, a nonpartisan plaintiff. Are you kidding? Oh, yeah. Cheered the judge's decision. Victory for voters. I don't care what party you're in. I don't care. You know damn well why they don't want people to have to show that they're citizens to vote. They have flooded this country with tens of millions of illegal aliens. That's why. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Listen, folks, if you're like me, you're passionate about protecting our American values. That's why I trust the Heritage Foundation. They're dedicated to promoting policies based on free enterprise, limited government, and traditional American values. The Heritage Foundation does more than just produce policy recommendations. They're mobilizing conservatives across the country. And right now, they need you to take action by completing their national survey on President Trump's agenda. Your responses to this survey will help guide Heritage leadership as they work closely with folks in Washington to promote your values, secure America's borders, and restore our freedoms. Here's what I want you to do. Visit heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/LEVIN to complete your survey. It's very, very important. My friends at Heritage need you to act now to help them maximize the impact on President Trump's first 100 days. Heritage is committed to preserving our Founding Fathers' principles and ensuring that America remains a beacon of freedom and opportunity. So I know you won't sit on the sidelines. You'll get involved, please, today, and make your voice heard. Visit heritage.org/Levin. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Please complete your survey today. That's heritage.org/LEVIN, paid for by the Great Heritage Foundation. We simply cannot have a country where unelected, left-wing, Democrat lawyers run the country, even though their party loses the election. This is illegitimate. This is not judging. This is anti-constitutional, which makes it unconstitutional. It's before our eyes. We, the people, are witness to what's taking place. We voted for a different administration. We voted for different policies. And don't tell me the President of the United States has no power unless Congress gives it to him. That's not what the Constitution says. And don't tell me the President of the United States has to have all these Democrat lawyers dressed up as judges looking over his shoulder every time he makes a decision. We know who's bringing these cases. We know who's bringing these cases. We know why they're bringing them where they're bringing them. And we know why the results are what they are. And right now, in the first 100 days of the Trump presidency, we have an aggressive, out-of-control, rogue judiciary, and the Supreme Court so far has been dancing on a tightrope. They'll throw one over here, they'll throw one over there, but that's not good enough. That's not good enough. There's going to come a time, I'm sad to say, that the only way to respond to this is going to be to not comply with court orders and to not comply with them on a massive scale in one courtroom after another and one courthouse after another. I mean, how much more can we as a people tolerate these lawyers dressed up as judges, these Democrat Party activists making decisions that are absolutely insane to advantage the Democrat Party, to advantage illegal aliens, to advantage the bureaucracy and public sector unions? How much more of this do we have to take? Congress, everybody knows, moves very slowly. And when you have a bare majority in the House, and frankly a bare majority in the Senate, given the fact that 3, 4, 5, or 6 Republicans like to bolt as well, and when you consider how the Supreme Court is conducting itself, I mean, they're the Sybil of the judiciary. They must have 23 different minds and psychologies up there. This is really black and white stuff. It's simple. The judiciary doesn't have this power. The Constitution, she says, only Congress and the states have the power, she says, to affect federal elections. Yet she upheld half of what he issued in his executive order. She doesn't even make any sense. She doesn't even make any sense. When it comes to this guy Garcia, who was sent to El Salvador, which is where he's from, he's an illegal alien. Whatever it is, MS-13, he's a wife beater and all the rest of it. A court issued a cause order and so forth. The gang doesn't even exist anymore that he said was threatening him. But none of it matters. It's a mere technicality. Because if they were to bring him back, he would be deported again. You just run him through a ringer a different way, and it's over. But the judge wants to make a constitutional issue out of it, and the administration is right to fight the judge. Because in order to get this guy back, that means the President of the United States has to bow in front of a single federal district judge. Even the Supreme Court in its ruling warned about separation of powers, warned the lower court to be careful about this. If Trump bows to these things, which he will not, then he's damaging the office of the presidency, and he's damaging separation of powers, and he's giving in to a rogue federal judge. I don't care what they're writing at National Review. I don't care what they're writing at the Wall Street Journal editorial page. They don't know what the F they're talking about. This is a big deal. A big deal. This is an entire campaign. Now, we've been through this for years. For years, we fought what they were trying to do to Donald Trump. For years. Whether it's documents, whether it's the Espionage Act or the Presidential Records Act, whether it's obstruction in the Enron case and using that statute, whether it's the 1871 KKK statute, and on and on and on, the conduct of the trials in New York, the conduct of the trial in Georgia, and now this. He goes through the gauntlet. They try to put him in prison. They try and break him. They fail. We, the people, vote overwhelmingly. He wins. And now they're trying to gut his presidency. The same people trying to gut his presidency. I'll be right back. Folks, I need to talk to you about something crucial to the future of America. Our friends at the Heritage Foundation are on the front lines fighting for our conservative values. Heritage is dedicated to promoting policies that will help bolster our economy, protect our borders, and uphold the rule of law. They're working tirelessly to defend our Constitution and the principles that make America exceptional. To help accomplish this, they need you to complete their national survey on President Trump's agenda today. So you can participate in this survey by going to heritage.org/Levin. That's heritage.org/Levin. Your responses are crucial to this survey, and they'll provide Heritage leadership with crucial feedback as they work closely with the folks in Washington to promote your values, secure America's borders, and restore our freedoms. By completing this very important survey today, you're standing up for the values that have made this country great. And my friends at Heritage need you to act now to maximize their impact on President Trump's first 100 days. So please don't wait. Our future depends on you. Together, we can make a difference, and future generations inherit a nation that is free, prosperous, and strong. So please, right now, visit heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin, complete your survey, and join the fight for America's future. That's heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Great Heritage Foundation.
Yes, it's true that Mark Levin is the fastest growing radio show in America. The Mark Levin Show is on at 877-381-3811.
Alan Garber is the president of Harvard, and he's making the media rounds, pretending that they really are fighting this problem of anti-Semitism at Harvard, and they will not be bullied by Trump. They will not be told what to do. Perhaps there are others, but I know one major college that doesn't take any government money, and we've talked about them for at least a decade, probably more on this program, and that's Hillsdale. Not one penny in federal monies, even student loans. They don't take students if they're involved in federal student monies. Same with state money in Michigan, none of it, and they're free to do as they wish. And it's a very moral environment. The professors, the students, it's a very virtuous environment. And you don't have anti-Semites on campus. You don't have people on campus who want to overthrow the government. You don't have any of that going on that campus. One of the things I recommended at the end of American Marxism was to defund these colleges and universities. Exactly what the president is doing. And they have no right to our tax dollars. They have no right to tax-exempt status. None. Those are privileges. Privileges. And if they want to take that money, if they want tax-exempt status, they have to conduct themselves in a way that is at least honorable. They don't have to be conservative or liberal or whatever they are. There don't have to be any tests. You know, we've been through colleges and universities before that are radical left-wing. But what's going on in our colleges and campuses today, it's an enigma. Unfortunately, it's an enigma becoming a reality, becoming the rule, not the exception. And so to do nothing about it would be a disaster. It would be to turn over government-supported, with your tax dollars, so-called educational institution to indoctrination mills of the Marxist and Islamist left, which is what they pretty much are right now. Pretty much what they are now. So here's this guy, Garber, on NBC News. Mr. Producer, can we see, it's tomorrow or bust, if we can get Mr. Garber on this program tomorrow, the president of Harvard. Cut one, Lester Holt with Garber. Go.
Is this really about anti-Semitism?
I would say that at Harvard, we have a real problem with anti-Semitism. We take it very seriously, and we're trying to address it.
See, this stuff, we take it very seriously. I mean, no, they don't. They obviously don't. Here you have a president of Harvard who's Jewish. You have rampant anti-Semitism on that campus. We take it very seriously, and we're trying to address it. What do you mean trying to address it? Stamp it out. Suspend students. Expel students. Shut down groups and organizations that the college has to authorize to be present and active on their college campus if they're involved in any of this. The First Amendment doesn't apply to the college enforcing its own rules on its students and its faculty. They're not the government. What could be easier, frankly? Go ahead.
There's no doubt about the severity of that problem. We don't really see the relationship to research funding at Harvard and other universities. They are two different issues.
See how sleazy this is? He's talking about funding of Harvard. Some of that money goes towards research. Research. We don't see the relationship between the two. Oh, I do. You should be using some of your $53 billion, which you wasn't asked about. You should be using some of your tax-exempt $53 billion on research, on hospitals, on whatever you want. But if we're going to continue to allow you don't get a participation trophy, as they say. You're the president of the college. Fix it. Put your foot down. But he's not. They're trying to address it. The problem is Harvard, like many of these colleges, have an enormous number of foreign students. The problem is Harvard, like many of these colleges, have received enormous sums of money from countries like Qatar, China, and so forth. So here we are. I don't see the relationship between research funding and so forth. It's not about research funding. It's about funding. Funding. Plus, they have a confiscatory tuition. Plus, this is the same Harvard that was discriminating against Asian students. Remember that? Remember that? The Supreme Court? The Asian students won. They won the case against Harvard and the North Carolina school that were discriminating against them, preventing them, despite their grades, despite their SATs, top level, because they, quote-unquote, had too many Asians. And so Harvard discriminated against them. And I've explained it to you, nobody else will, that Harvard has a deep and broad history going back to the 1930s in supporting the Third Reich and Nazis. That's correct. We're lectured by Harvard. We're lectured by the New York Times that has a deep and broad history of covering up the Holocaust. We have Harvard in the 1930s, whose president was an anti-Semite, who invited Nazi professors, sharing professors, to Harvard. And worse. Cut two, go.
What they are indicating is that they want to directly review who we hire on our faculty.
No. See how this guy is a sleazeball extraordinaire. That's why I want him on the show. What they're trying to determine, folks, is if they're bringing in these Islamists and so forth and so on to the exclusion of other types of professors, like Jews, which would be a violation of federal law. And so the way he puts it is they're trying to review who we hire on our faculty. We already know who they hire on their faculty. If you read my book, Plunder and Deceit, it's a very incestuous hiring practice. They have these different schools within the school, the school of journalism, the school of this, the school of that. And what happens is the faculty help select the faculty, and they pick people they know. They pick people of the same ideology, often the same ethnicity and religion, people who share their worldview. This is why you'll have maybe 5% or less of the faculty who's even considered right of center. In a college where you're supposed to have academic freedom, supposed to have debate, not just among the Trotskyites, the Maoists, the Leninists, and the Stalinists, but other people too. Go ahead.
It has implications for what kinds of views can be expressed on campus. They also want to be able to tell us who we need to fire. And they also want to intervene in our admissions processes.
In the admissions process, the Supreme Court already intervened, but you see, Lester Holt is too stupid to remind them that the Supreme Court intervened because you were committing a federal offense under the Civil Rights Act. You were discriminating against Asian students, applicants. Lester didn't remind them of that. Lester didn't remind them of their history with the Nazi regime. Lester didn't do anything. And Garber, of course, he's not going to offer it. Go ahead.
That is what we are objecting to.
You're taking on the most powerful man in the world.
See what I mean? You're taking on that. This has nothing to do with that. These scripted questions. You need to bore into this guy and tell him about Harvard's record of racism and anti-Semitism. He doesn't even ask, what exactly are you doing after all this time? What are you doing to stamp this out? You're pushing DEI, which is affirmative action, which is illegal the way that you're handling it. Again, I want to repeat this. If there are people who are down and out, people who come up the hard way, that is allowed to be a relevant factor that's considered in admissions policies. People in deep poverty, that sort of thing. People have been discriminated against, and so forth and so on. A school is free to take that into consideration, and it should. What it's not free to do is to say, okay, you're part of a so-and-so class, a black class or a gay class or this class or that class, some nomenclature, and therefore we will have some kind of a system, whether it's a quota system or less of a quota system, in which we're going to discriminate based on these physical features. The court has said no. That is unconstitutional. But you can, in fact, put a greater emphasis on people who've come from, hard knocks and that sort of thing. Go ahead.
We are defending what I believe is one of the most important linchpins of the American economy and way of life, our universities.
The universities are the last Stalinist strongholds in our country. And they are the first Islamist strongholds in our country. So he makes it like this is America and apple pie. Has nothing to do with America and apple pie. Let there be no mistake. He is defending what's taking place on that campus. He is defending the threats against Jewish students because he hadn't done enough to do anything about it. He's defending the ideological indoctrination that takes place on that campus. And then he's saying he wants our money. They want our money. We will invite him on, Alan Garber, Harvard president, to discuss this. And please, nobody tip him off about what I want to talk about. I want to talk about their history. I want to talk about what they did to those Asian kids. I want to talk about it. Now, isn't it interesting to you, America, that the one place with a hard left doesn't want the government? They want it everywhere else. In every industry and business. They want it in every bedroom. They want it in your household to make all kinds of decisions about what kind of household products you can have, what kind of dishwasher you can have, what kind of HVAC system, what kind of fan you can have, what kind of automobile you're allowed to have. They want the government in your life, boy. The Marxists, they're there, the hard push, government. And then when it comes to them, they're libertarians. No, government, no government here. Just give us your money. Billions. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Listen, folks, if you're like me, you're passionate about protecting our American values. That's why I trust the Heritage Foundation. They're dedicated to promoting policies based on free enterprise, limited government, and traditional American values. The Heritage Foundation does more than just produce policy recommendations. They're mobilizing conservatives across the country. And right now, they need you to take action by completing their national survey on President Trump's agenda. Your responses to this survey will help guide Heritage leaders leadership as they work closely with folks in Washington to promote your values, secure America's borders, and restore our freedoms. Here's what I want you to do. Visit heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/LEVIN to complete your survey. It's very, very important. My friends at Heritage need you to act now to help them maximize the impact on President Trump's first 100 days. Heritage is committed to preserving our founding fathers' principles and ensuring that America remains a beacon of freedom and opportunity. So I know you won't sit on the sidelines. You'll get involved, please, today, and make your voice heard. Visit heritage.org/Levin. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Please complete your survey today. That's heritage.org/LEVIN, paid for by the Great Heritage Foundation. I'm sure we'll have a lot of luck getting the president of Harvard on the program. And Harvard is being targeted, not because there's an attack on academic freedom, because there's an attack on the lack of academic freedom. Because there's literally Jews who are afraid for their safety on the campus. I want to say this about Donald Trump. There's not another person as president of the United States who would be doing what he's doing. Not another one. This guy, look at this guy, Garber. He's Jewish. He's the president of Harvard. He's a weasel. Look at the former head of the ADL, even the current head of the ADL. Weasels. Trump says, I'm going to put an end to this damn anti-Semitism. Makes me sick to my stomach. I'm going to put an end to this violence and this threatening against Jewish students. We're not going to tolerate this in the United States of America. Donald Trump is giving voice to what Americanism is all about. Donald Trump is giving voice to what academic freedom is all about. Donald Trump is giving voice to what free speech is all about. That's what he's doing. You don't get these little safe havens in America subsidized by the American taxpayer where we pretend academic freedom is not academic freedom. That is, where we pretend that there's really education going on, that people feel comfortable voicing their opinions, when that's not happening. And we're subsidizing it. These are basically big businesses that have these massive endowments. My first question to the president would be, that is Garber, how much do you earn? These guys are earning hundreds of thousands, some of them millions. That's what they're protecting. They're fiefdom. These are fiefdoms. They rip off students with their tuition. Then they rip off you and me, the American taxpayer, with their student government loans that they don't want to pay back. You and I, we're subsidizing the whole damn thing. The attack on Americanism, the attack on Jews, the racism through DEI, the admissions discrimination. We're paying for all of it. Trump says no. No. This guy Garber, in the face of all this, he pretends he's for academic freedom. He's not. He can't have the government looking at their admissions policies. Let me tell you a little secret, America. The government now looks at all admissions policies to determine whether or not they comply with federal civil rights law. To protect blacks, to protect Asians, to protect Hispanics, to protect Jews, to protect everybody. They look at the admissions processes. In fact, colleges and universities have to maintain those records. The problem is Lester Holt doesn't know his ass from a you-know-what, so he doesn't confront them. Nor on their history. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. The president making himself available in the Oval Office, as he is wont to do. More than any other president, that's for sure. And they're talking about, among other things, Russia and Ukraine. Now, Russia continues to bombard the population centers and energy centers of Ukraine. I don't think it's any secret here that I think that Vladimir Putin is a genocidal monster who wants to conquer Ukraine on his way to Poland and the Balkan states. That's what he said. That's what he wrote. And so I take these things seriously when dictators say and write these things, or when Islamists talk about blowing us off the face of the earth. I take it very seriously. It's called being a rational human being. Ukraine was promised our support, Britain's support, Britain's still supporting them, and Russia's support, should they be invaded, when they gave up the nuclear weapons, the biggest mistake they ever made. Bill Clinton was president then. He was president then. So let's take a listen in. The White House today, Russia and Ukraine. Cut 6, go.
On Russia, do you still believe that Putin is serious about peace given the events overnight in Ukraine? And if that bombing doesn't end, are you considering new sanctions on Russia?
So we are thinking that very strongly that they both want peace, but they have to get to the table. We're waiting a long time. They have to get them to the table, and I think we're going to get peace. We want to save 5,000 young people. I used to say 2,500. I now say 5,000.
But here's the problem. Putin doesn't care about saving 5,000 people. He's already lost 400,000. He started it. He could end it easily. It's like the Islamo-Nazi regime in Tehran. They'll sign any deal. Just a matter of time. And they may even honor it while Trump's president. Democrat comes in, they'll rip it up into 1,000 pieces. That's what we're dealing with here. Go ahead.
Mr. Prime Minister, we have about 5,000 young people a week that are dying in that ridiculous war. And, I started out because I didn't like all the money that we were paying, and then I realized how many people were dying. And that's by far the more important element right now. I'm saying we can save thousands of people, and I don't like that it takes long at all, but I think they both want to make peace. I do believe so. There's a lot of hatred there. There's a lot of very bad blood, a lot of distrust. But I think I hope we're going to get there for the sake of a lot of young people that are dying.
But if Putin doesn't care about a lot of young people dying, they're dragging them into a draft, if you will, forcing them on the front lines. I'm not sure how this is going to work, although I salute the president for giving it all his effort here. Cut 7, go.
Mr. President, this morning in a Truth Social post, you used the words Vladimir, stop. That seemed like a slightly different message, a personal message. What is your level of frustration with President Putin?
I didn't like last night. I wasn't happy with it. And we're in the midst of talking peace, and missiles were fired. And I was not happy with it. That's what I meant, and that's, what it said. I assume that's what you mean.
Sorry.
Yeah.
If the bombs keep falling, will you consider additional sanctions toward Russia, or what will you do if President Putin...
I'd rather answer that question in a week. I want to see if we can have a deal. No reason to answer it now, but I won't be happy. Let me put it that way. Things will happen.
Cut 8, go.
Why are you not putting more pressure on Russia? I know a lot of Europeans...
Putting a lot of pressure. You don't know what pressure I'm putting on Russia. They're dealing. You have no idea what pressure I'm putting on Russia. We're putting a lot of pressure.
Can you maybe tell us that?
We're putting a lot of pressure on Russia, and Russia knows that, and some people that are close to it know, or he wouldn't be talking right now. The Prime Minister understands that better than anybody. He wouldn't be talking right now. He's talking, and we're putting a lot of pressure. I think he wants to make a deal. We're going to find out very soon, but it takes two to tango. And you have to have Ukraine want to make a deal, too. And they're being hit very hard. And I do believe they want to make a deal.
Perhaps the biggest mistake in that war is the Biden regime. We talked about this early on, withholding the kinds of weapons Ukraine needed to really punish Russia. And that may have brought this to a better conclusion. Right now, Putin could just fire missiles, attack Kiev, just hammer away, really without much consequence. Really without much consequence. So that is going on. The president was also asked about Iran. I'm looking for that now, Mr. Producer. I think that was earlier. Let's see here. Which one is it, Rich? Let's find it. Let's see here. Here it is. It's cut 10. Go ahead.
I think we're doing very well with respect to Iran, and we're having very serious meetings. And there are only two options, and the one option is not a good option. It's not a good option at all. And I think we're doing very well on an agreement with Iran, but that one, we're doing a lot of things, I will say, but that one is well on its way. We could have a very, very good decision, and a lot of lives will be saved.
Well, we'll see. I hope he's right. I hope this means that they will disassemble the nuclear program, which I don't think they will. I suspect they're looking at allowing them to retain what everybody will say is the ability to have nuclear domestic power, which of course they don't need. They have all the oil they want. They're selling it to China. And you don't need the kind of centrifuges, and you don't need the kind of fissile material that they have produced to make nuclear power. And then you look at Iran. Do they really have an infrastructure for providing energy via nuclear power to their people? No, they don't. They haven't spent one penny on it. The people of Iran are very poor. The inflation there is 30-40%. The leadership is very rich. They rip off the people. They have gulags, and so forth and so on. So this is not being done on behalf of the Iranian people. That much I know for 100%. But the president feels, from what I'm listening here, that things are going swimmingly, and they're going quickly. We will wait and see how this turns out. I have a question for you, though. I saw what Marco Rubio said as well, that countries have a right to have nuclear power for peaceful domestic means. Is that what Iran's doing? Nuclear power for peaceful domestic means? We can't get Marco Rubio on this program. He'll talk to dictators, Marxists, fascists, Islamists. He won't talk to us. In fact, Mr. Producer, let's try it again. And I have a very basic question. My very basic question is this. How many nations that are building or have nuclear power for purely domestic energy needs are we negotiating with? Do you know, Mr. Producer? None. Why would you negotiate with a nation that you know is building nuclear plants for domestic use? And you're able to tell, I mean, the technologies are different. There's some basic technologies that overlap, but the technologies are generally different. You wouldn't, and you don't. We're not negotiating with countries that have nuclear power or nuclear power plants to ensure that they don't build missiles. So this whole thing is a facade. I don't care who says it when people are saying, oh, they have a right to a domestic energy, nuclear energy, domestic energy. That means to me, and look, I'm reading the tea leaves. We'll find out soon enough that there's going to be some significant, basic technologies and materials that will remain in place. The Iranians will be free to change the label for nuclear missiles, rip that label off and put on a new label for domestic nuclear energy. And then are we supposed to nod our heads, our bobbleheads, and say, okay? I don't know. We'll see. I have faith in the president to do the right thing here, so we will see. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Don't get suckered into the same old free phone game by Big Wireless that comes with a lot of fine print, like requiring you to sign up for 4 lines plus activation fees, plus. And the end of the day, you've paid for that free phone 3 times over. Pure Talk is my sponsor, my wireless company. They have a much better offer. With a qualifying plan of just $35 a month, you can get a brand new Samsung Galaxy A26 for free. Now, this phone is virtually indestructible. Gorilla Glass captures beautiful wide-angle photos with next-generation camera lenses. All you need to do is switch to Pure Talk. For just $35 a month, you get unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, more than you'll ever need, with mobile hotspot, all on one of America's most dependable 5G networks. Go to puretalk.com/Levin to make the switch. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN to claim your free Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plan when you switch to Pure Talk. Wireless by Americans for Americans. So Dan Abrams, yes, the guy with the multiple dead squirrels glued to the top of his head. I don't know if he wears makeup or not. I know that's something they're very concerned about, right, Colby, over at Mediaite? So this is a site they created to observe the media. It's nothing but another vile site. Let's go through some headlines. Mediaite. I'll hook you up to a effing polygraph, Hegseth reportedly erupted at Joint Chiefs Chairman. He's suspected of leaking to the press. Trump pardons disgraced politician who used money raised for slain police officers to pay for plastic surgery. Pete Hegseth's chief of staff is out as Pentagon loses 5th top official in days. It was a knife fight. Let's see. Marjorie Taylor Greene reportedly mulling 2026 Senate run and thinks she would crush all but one challenger. So they sprinkle real articles in, but then they go off. Florida Senate Minority Leader steps down, switches registration to independent, declares Florida Democrat Party dead. Trump nominee claims he was unaware of white supremacist views when praising him. Fox's Gasparino warns we're almost in a recession because of Trump's tariffs. Trump now selling Trump 2028 merchandise on his online store. The president has been lying about a bunch of prices. Daniel Dale fact-checks Trump's repeated deception on tariff fallout. Bill Maher fumes over Larry David's op-ed mocking his Trump meeting, insulting to 6 million dead Jews. Maher's right about that. Fox reporter says the Trump White House is giving Wall Street executives inside info on tariff negotiations. Jim Acosta scathingly complains Trump has cracked the code to hurt the press amid CBS bombshell. Trump hypes a pretty big concession Putin is willing to make in Ukraine, not taking the whole country. Fox Business Panel blasts Trump's perverse 5,000 baby bonus plan. Charlie Kirk says Trump administration fueling anti-Semitism by detaining critics of foreign country Israel. Now let me say this. These headlines like that one are thoroughly misleading. Charlie Kirk is a big supporter of the state of Israel, and that's not what he's saying. Certainly not in that way. What he said was actually quite thoughtful. And he's saying here when you're going to deport somebody because they write an op-ed that is critical of, say, Israel, that helps fuel anti-Semitism. Now, that last part may or may not be true, but it ought not be controversial. That's his opinion, and it's a perfectly legitimate opinion. If that's his opinion, which it is. I don't agree with it, but so what? It's irrelevant. I'm making the point, though, that here they are trying to turn him into some anti-Israel, anti-administration podcaster, which he's not. They pull the same crap with me. Well, look at this. Levin is defying Trump. I have my opinion. I'm not defying anybody. On the one hand, you're criticized as being a jackboot marcher behind the president. Then on the other hand, you give your opinion. Look at that. He's defying Trump. That's why this website that I bring up, it's a foil for me. It's illustrative of the problem the Democrats are having with their so-called new media. They get a lot of clicks. They get a lot of hits. They're grifting left and right, but they're not contributing anything useful to society, not real information or anything of the kind. They're not. It's just another grifter operation by Dan Abrams and his hair. Actually, by the squirrels and Dan Abrams. But it's like 80% hostile, boom, 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 and it pretends to be a media site, media-ite. It's not. It's just another hit job. MAGA influencer tells Steve Bannon Trump will have no choice but to suspend habeas corpus. Trump dismisses raising taxes on the rich because a lot of millionaires will leave the country. Trump warned by Walmart, Target, Home Depot, CEOs that disastrous tariff policy will lead to empty shelves. It sucks. Trump bitterly rages against Fox News and calls for heads to roll. The Wall Street Journal and them, just on and on and on. Trump, 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 Trump. It's like these guys in media, they're in heat. I mean, there are real things going on in this country and with other countries. Real stories. I just talked about Iran, a potential deal, that sort of. It's not even on their website. Nowhere close to it. Is that not an important issue? Nuclear weapons? I'd say it is. We have a judge that rules that, and she's a big-time Democrat out of Washington, D.C., and these Democrat so-called voting groups and the Democrat Party bring a suit against the Trump administration because, among other things, he thinks when you register to vote in federal elections, you have to prove you're an American citizen. And she just ruled, no, you don't. That's up to Congress and the states. And yet, she ruled the rest of the executive order was legitimate. Apparently, that's not up to Congress and the states. So she doesn't even make any sense. But she's protecting the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party went to court to prevent the showing of evidence that you're an American citizen in order to register to vote. And they won in front of a Democrat hack judge. But, of course, that's not a story here because Dan Abrams is a Democrat hack, and so is media. Just making a point. Just making a point of how they conduct themselves. And that's how they conduct themselves. And I'm using them as a foil because they're not alone in what they are doing. And yes, I'm very worried about a quote-unquote deal with the Islamo-Nazi regime in Iran because they lie and they cheat and they have violated every single aspect of every deal they've ever signed. I'm incredibly concerned about it, especially once President Trump leaves office. We're very concerned about it. And the line that Marco Rubio gave doesn't even make any sense to me. I'd like to question him about it politely. When he talks about, these countries, they have a right, every country does, to have a domestic use for nuclear power. Yes, but we're not having to sign agreements with them, are we? Yes, but we're not having to worry about them making nuclear missiles aimed at the United States, right? We're not having to worry about them say death to America over and over and over again. That is a little different, I would say, than your average country that is trying to develop nuclear energy for themselves. No, it's a lot different, in fact. So if that's the mindset, I'm going to be watching very carefully. If I agree with the deal, I'll tell you. If I disagree with it, I'll tell you. I'll be right back. Don't get suckered into the same old free phone game by Big Wireless that comes with a lot of fine print, like requiring you to sign up for 4 lines plus activation fees, plus. And the end of the day, you've paid for that free phone 3 times over. Pure Talk is my sponsor, my wireless company. They have a much better offer. With a qualifying plan of just $35 a month, you can get a brand new Samsung Galaxy A26 for free. Now, this phone is virtually indestructible. Gorilla Glass captures beautiful wide-angle photos with next-generation camera lenses. All you need to do is switch to Pure Talk. For just $35 a month, you get unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, more than you'll ever need, with mobile hotspot, all on one of America's most dependable 5G networks. Go to puretalk.com/Levin to make the switch. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN to claim your free Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plan when you switch to Pure Talk. Wireless by Americans for Americans.
Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
Again, I want to encourage folks, go to memri.org, MEMRI.org, where you will see their translators translating what the Islamo-Nazis in Iran are saying and all over the Middle East about the president, about these negotiations. I'm going to read one to you I just posted. And this guy is on video on Iranian television. Right? This is the last day or two. Former Deputy Foreign Minister and Khomeini advisor Mohammad-Javad Larijani. Quote, Iran is returning to nuclear talks with the United States reluctantly. American negotiators are lunatics. Trump a vulgar individual who makes me physically sick. That's not just anybody. That is a top, close confidant to the head Islamo-Nazi Khomeini. And here we are negotiating with them, and this is, they just say whatever they feel they're comfortable with. And they're not going to keep any agreement that's signed. None. They're not. And folks, you ought to go over there. I put it on my social sites. You can go over to Twitter and whatever. Take a look at it yourselves. And you ought to share it with as many people as you can. Share it with as many people as you can. This is a terrorist regime. It's a killing machine. It has funded all the terrorism in the Middle East. And we're negotiating with it. And we're going to get a deal, I think. And it'll be peace in our time. Because as I said, even if it's a deal where they dare not violate it while Donald Trump is president, they sure as hell won't care about the next president. That's my opinion. That's how they conduct themselves. That's who they are. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see if the warmongers, that is the Islamo-Nazi regime in Tehran, gets to keep its basic material that it developed, technology, of course, or if it's going to have to dismantle its program. I don't mean dismantle the Potemkin village part of their program. I mean dismantle their program with our eyes on it and with our knowledge about it. Look, they've thrown the wool over the eyes of Obama, over Biden, over the UN, over Europe. They haven't complied with anything. And the clock is done. If you look at the clock, we're seconds away, meaning weeks away. And so you don't have to pay rope-a-dope for long. You really don't. This is, look, it concerns me a lot. I don't want them to have a nuclear missile. I don't want it aimed at our country. I don't want my kids and your kids and everybody else's kids subjected to this. We'll be gone one day. They'll be here. They'll have their own kids. And you'll have this country blackmailing them and threatening them if they haven't already used the missiles. So, I mean, our generation ought to have the guts to put an end to this. Our generation should not allow our children and their grandchildren, we should not allow the next generation and generations yet born live under a cloud of nuclear war by an Islamo-Nazi regime. But the same mentality that took down our towers in New York and took down our Pentagon and a plane that was taken down in central Pennsylvania. This is who they are. I mean, I don't know. What are we, deaf, dumb, and blind? Death to America, death to America, death to America. Their kids are taught this in elementary school. It is a constant. People can make excuses. The anti-Semites can blame Israel. They can do whatever they want. The fact of the matter is, intercontinental ballistic missiles with a nuclear warhead, that's us. That's aimed at us. And when they took down our towers, Israel had nothing to do with it. That is, they didn't drag us into being attacked. This is no joke. This is very serious. We have a massive nuclearized communist China. We have a madman running Russia that they make excuses for, who's trying to destroy Ukraine, that didn't invade anybody, who's minding their own business, with his eyes on Poland and the Balkan states. And I might add, Romania, he threw them into. We've got communist China that wants to take Taiwan, and I bet they do. That's threatening Japan, Australia, New Zealand, the Philippines. We act like this isn't going on. Just because we pretend it's not doesn't mean it's not. Russia buzzed our airspace again. Jet fighters with NATO had to chase them off. This is like 3 times in 1 week. They seem concerned about anything? No, they don't. Tell me, what is Communist China doing in our hemisphere? What is Communist China doing in Central and South America? What were they doing on both sides of the Panama Canal? What are they doing in the Solomon Islands? The Solomon Islands, where my great-uncle fought during World War II. What are they doing on the west coast of China, facing off against our coast? Why are they want to put nuclear weapons in space? Why do they have killer satellites? Why are they working with Russia to have 10 military bases in the Arctic Circle? Why? Does this sound like a country that's preparing for war? You damn well better believe it. And at a minimum, they want to cut us off economically. And you see what's happened with tariffs. They didn't fold. We keep talking about negotiating with them now, which is fine by me. That's the goal, I'm sure. Their navy's bigger than ours. God knows their army's bigger than ours. 1.5 billion people in their country. They're literally threatening Australia and Japan, literally threatening South Korea. They don't care. The Islamo-Nazis, they're laughing. They're laughing at the West. They think we're weak. They hear the mouthpieces in our country, the special pleaders for Iran, calling the people who are calling out Iran the warmongers. The drums of war. Yeah, right, drums of war. The morning call of war. That's what's going on. By the other side. We're the good guys, may I remind people. They're the bad guys. I don't know. I'm very frustrated tonight. Can you tell, Mr. Producer? I'm very anxious. I'm very concerned. I'm worried about the Ukrainians, who are the victims. I'm worried about us, with Iran and nuclear missiles. I'm worried a lot. I'm worried about the enemy within the United States. Right now, it's the court system. It's a very complex and daunting problem we have with these courts. I'm worried about it. I'm worried about it a lot. If I sound anxious, it's because I am. It's a problem when you study history, ancient, modern history. I know that's oxymoronic, but it is what it is. In American history, when you study philosophy, when you know who the great men are and the great evil men are throughout throughout human history, there are red lines throughout world history. Every generation faces them. It's almost beyond my imagination that Iran is going to survive with the potential to build nuclear missiles when it's on its back economically and on its back militarily. It's almost beyond my imagination. Or that somehow the nation that destroyed the Soviet Union, our nation, through Ronald Reagan, that we literally have people in this country rooting for the wrong side. It's incredible to me. We literally have senators saying, get out of NATO, which is there to protect us. And he's done a damn good job of it for the last 80 years or so, give or take. More like 70, but it's not just crazy times we live in. These are crazy people who have power, who have voices. Now, I must confess, they're kind of on the sidelines. They may not think they are, but they are. They are. And when confronted, if they'll ever allow me to confront them, they melt. They melt like butter in the hot summer sun. They melt because they don't make any sense. They're busy talking to each other, talking to themselves. Crazy. Now, do most of you agree with me? Not on everything, but we agree on a lot. You see our ratings, Mr. Producer, on radio? In 90% of our markets, they're through the roof. It's not because I play to the ratings. I don't even know how to play to the ratings. I don't have the foggiest idea. It's because I do what I do and I say what I say. And you folks, you know. You know right from wrong, good from evil, and you're not going to be persuaded by self-appointed influencers and others who don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Don't get suckered into the same old free phone game by Big Wireless that comes with a lot of fine print, like requiring you to sign up for 4 lines plus activation fees, plus. And the end of the day, you've paid for that free phone 3 times over. Pure Talk is my sponsor, my wireless company. They have a much better offer. With a qualifying plan of just $35 a month, you can get a brand new Samsung Galaxy A26 for free. Now, this phone is virtually indestructible. Gorilla Glass captures beautiful wide-angle photos with next-generation camera lenses. All you need to do is switch to Pure Talk. For just $35 a month, you get unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, more than you'll ever need, with mobile hotspot, all on one of America's most dependable 5G networks. Go to puretalk.com/Levin to make the switch. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN to claim your free Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plan when you switch to Pure Talk. Wireless by Americans for Americans. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I've been doing a lot of reading about, I've told you, impressionists, artists, mostly French, of course. But I've been reading about other artists and looking at their artwork too, Mr. Producer. Did you know Winston Churchill was a great artist? He was self-taught, painted well over 500 paintings. They're in the market from time to time. They go for over $1 million, some of them $2 million. And he started painting at a relatively young age, not in his teens or anything like that, but as a young man. And it gave him great relief. Great relief. And he would paint landscapes, he would paint buildings and other sorts of things and so forth. Really high quality. You can go on the internet and see it. And they're in great demand. Very expensive. Frank Sinatra was a great painter. Did you know that, Mr. Producer? Now you have to like the kind of genre that he painted in, abstract art. Some of his, I'm not into abstract art, but that doesn't matter. I can still admire what he was doing. And again, he's a person who found relief and relaxation in painting. And he painted a lot. And his pieces, some of them, are for sale from time to time, too. I just love looking at these things. And then there's paintings I look at. I'll look at them online or I'll look at them in a book. They interest me, and of course I will look up the background of the painter and so forth, and they all have very interesting histories. Just, it's a fascinating thing. And when I would take a little break from writing my book, you know, I'd write it for like 3, 4, 4.5 hours, and I would take a half-hour, 40-minute break. That's what I would do. take my mind off so I can have a fresh mind when I get back to it. I'm very excited about this book. You know, I get excited about all, but I'm really excited about this book because I really wrote it for you folks. I wrote it for our time. It's not a typical book. It's not even a typical Mark Levin book. No, you can't get it on Amazon yet. We're going to put it up there in about 2 or 3 weeks. The Power Hour is next. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. This is the Power Hour, Hour 3. You know, some people, they do 3 hours. Hour 3 is, that's the time to kick up and don't worry about it. I don't kick up. I don't think I ever kick up, Mr. Producer, quite frankly. Judge bars Trump from denying funds to sanctuary cities. That's another one today. So you don't have to have a citizenship requirement. You can't bar funds to sanctuary cities that defy federal law. List goes on and on and on. What's going on with these judges, it's just disgusting. Another judge today temporarily blocks Trump's push to end DEI in K-12 public schools. They're just going down the line, you see. They're just going down the line. Another district judge ordered the Trump administration to restore state media networks. State media networks. And the Federalists had a good take on this. Zach Smith. D.C. courts are such a mess because leftist judges, not POTUS, pick their colleagues. Interesting. Should sitting judges, especially the controversial James Boasberg and Tanya Chunkin, be able to tell the president what other judges he can appoint? Of course not. But under the current system for selecting D.C.'s local judges, that's exactly what happens. It's bad enough that those challenging Trump administration policies have sought to bring their cases before D.C. federal judges, like those mentioned, who they believe will be inclined to rule against the administration, especially on hot-button issues like abortion and immigration, spending, trans-identifying individuals in the military, just to name a few. But what's worse, those same judges have been empowered to help select other judges who are likely to have the same radically different and sometimes dangerous view of judicial role, regardless of the wishes of a sitting president. Here's the backstory. For most of the nation's history, the president appointed District of Columbia judges via the familiar system outlined in the Constitution. When a vacancy occurs, the president would nominate a replacement and appoint that person once confirmed by the Senate. But starting in 1973, with the advent of Washington's home rule, Congress radically altered not only the structure and jurisdiction of the district courts, but also the method by which their judges were selected. This is important. Congress ostensibly enacted these so-called reforms to give local leaders a greater say in who sat on D.C.'s newly created courts and to make the process nonpartisan and apolitical. But we know that selecting judges is an inherently political exercise, right? And in practice, any impartial observer would have to admit that the current system has loaded the dice to make it impossible for any constitutionally conservative judge to make it onto the bench. In a constitutionally questionable move, Congress stripped the President of the United States his ability to nominate his preferred candidate to take the bench. Instead, Congress created a system where anyone who wants to serve as a judge on D.C.'s local courts must first apply to a statutorily mandated Judicial Nominating Commission, the JNC. Now, the JNC is comprised of 7 members, one of whom the president selects D.C. mayor and D.C. bar, they each select one. Actually, they each select two. D.C. council selects a member too, so the president gets 1 out of 7. Even more bizarrely, the chief justice of the district's federal court appoints a sitting federal judge serving in the district to serve as the final member of the JNC. This means that these judges are selecting other judges. Of the applicants that it reviews, the JNC must select 3 candidates to fill each vacancy and then forward those candidates' names to the president. But here's where things get even crazier. If the president refuses to nominate one of the 3 recommended individuals within 60 days of receiving their names, then this group, this Politburo, the JNC itself, can pick someone, nominate that person, and appoint, if there's Senate confirmation, the person to serve on the court. No wonder D.C. Circuit Judge, the late, great Lawrence Silberman, with agreement by D.C. Circuit Judge Greg Katsas, questioned the propriety of sitting federal judges, essentially picking other judges. Now remember, I read to you from Raoul Berger's book the other day, where this Council of Revision, which would have included the newly minted president and national judges, to veto congressional legislation. They said, no, we can't have judges involved in that sort of thing. Well, look at this. It's inherently political and an ethical quagmire. It's forbidden by judicial ethics and other similar circumstances. For instance, federal judges cannot serve on a state's similar board to help select the state judges because of inherently political nature of that activity. But the same is true here. Take, for instance, the fact that under the present system, Chief Judge James Boasberg, reprobate, gets to appoint the D.C. federal judge to sit on this committee. And Judge Tanya Chunkin, in fact, currently fills the role. She was selected. And we know she's a radical kook. President Trump has criticized both of those judges in the past, and both have ruled against his administration in various actions. Chunkin even presided over one of the cases special counsel Jack Smith brought against Trump. As if that weren't enough, then President Obama, one of Trump's political and ideological opponents, appointed both to their current positions. So this system is set up to ensure that D.C. has a majority, if not a significant majority, of these radical kook Democrat judges. Just so you know. Zach Smith is a senior fellow and manager of the Supreme Court and Appellate Advocacy Program at the Heritage Foundation, the Edwin Meese III Center for Legal and Judicial Studies. God, was I blessed to serve under him. Was I blessed to serve under Ed Meese. Learned so much. What a wonderful human being, too, by the way. Just an absolutely terrific person. And so we have a big problem right now, and I wrote about this in my first book called Men in Black. But in my next book, I have a significant chapter. Well, that's enough. Anyway, you'll understand. Trust in the Supreme Court plummets 41%. The Supreme Court's doing this to itself, study finds. Trust in Supreme Court plummets to 41% as Americans cling to constitutional values. The new national survey from the Annenberg Public Policy Center reveals that while public trust in key institutions like the Supreme Court and Congress is fading, Americans across party lines overwhelmingly support the Constitution's system of checks and balances. Yet support for judicial oversight and the presidency is surging. People want the president to listen to the Supreme Court, and they think our system of government requires the president to do so. But faith in the court is way down. Just 41% of Americans now trust the U.S. Supreme Court, a sharp fall from 68% in 2019. Nearly 1 in 3 say they have no trust at all in the court. I'm getting there myself. Since May 2024, the share of Americans with low or no trust has jumped from 55 to 59% when it comes to the Supreme Court. Yep. I thought I would point that out. I'm just looking here. Only 37% trust justices to decide cases without personal bias. And the ethics of justices on the Supreme Court have slid from 72% positive in 2006 to 44% today. How do you like that? The court's destroying itself by not defending and indeed helping to save the republic. And now it can help defend and save us from its own district courts. But so far it has a mixed record, which is getting worse and worse by the week. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
We will be taking calls at the bottom of the hour. 877-381-3811. I don't think I mentioned that. Also, two fantastic shows this weekend on Life, Liberty, and Levin. Same time, same place, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. General Jack Keane, Saturday. And Jim Trusty, our buddy. Two great guests, and, of course, my opening. And Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget to set your DVR. We will have Alan Dershowitz and Joe Contra. So, two killer shows. Just 2 a week. A lot of the weekend guys and gals, they go on other shows to promote their show. Honestly, I wish I had time to do that. I do not. And, of course, I don't work out of New York or Washington, D.C., where I can just walk into the studio, so it doesn't work that way. So I speak to you, my radio audience. So 8 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. Go ahead and set your DVR, and then you don't have to give it a second thought. But also try and watch us live if you can. You never know what's going to happen. But I think you're going to like these shows this weekend. I know you will. As usual, they're very, very important. All right, let's go all the way, Mr. Producer, to cut 20. Henry Enton on CNN. I like this guy, Harry Enton, because of the guy brings passion and emotion to polls. Did you notice that, Mr. Producer? He's very animated. He's very dramatic. He's very entertaining. And so he takes a very dry subject and he really lets loose. But it's not just that. There's something interesting. Now, you know I'm skeptical of polls, but if CNN is telling us, if they're telling us the American people have very little trust in the Democratic leadership, maybe it's worth at least a peek. Cut 20, go.
Yeah, this, I think, is a revolt that is going on within the Democratic Party right now, Democrats and their leaders. I mean, take a look nationally. Hello, Democrats and Dem leaders in Congress. The belief that they will do the right thing when it comes to the economy. Last year at this time, 80% believed that the Democratic leaders in Congress would do the right thing when it comes to the economy. And keep in mind, this is Democrats. Look at where we are now. That number has been slashed in half to just 39%. Holy Toledo, that is the lowest number by far in Gallup polling. The lowest previous was just 60%, which is 21 points higher than this. Democrats hate what their congressional leaders in Washington are doing right now on the key issue of the day, the economy, and their confidence has fallen through the floor, Mr. Berman.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh. That Marxist class warfare tax stuff doesn't seem to be flying. No, it doesn't. Joe Crowley, who had held the seat that now AOC holds for 20 years, until she beat him in the primary because he got lazy and he didn't work. Plus the demographics changed in the district. What about AOC? What do you think about her now, Joe? Cut 21, go.
Well, first off, I think that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a great talent. There's no doubt about that. I think that what she's doing is speaking in no small part, as Bernie Sanders is, to the base of our party. And we need to maintain that base. We need to turn them out in the general election as well. But in order to win many of these seats in the House of Representatives, we need to go beyond our base. We have to appeal to moderates. We have to actually appeal to some Republicans to to cross over and vote for a Democrat. And so I do think that these are important things to happen, that they should continue to do this. But at the same time, we need to keep in mind, in order to win back the House of Representatives, we have to take seats that are presently held by Republicans. And to do that, You have to go to the moderate or you have to appeal to Republican.
Good luck with that. Democrat Party is hardcore Marxist and Islamist. I remember the day they used to call them the yellow dog Democrat. No, the blue dog Democrats. The blue dog Democrats. They were from the South and Southwest. But mostly they were talking about these moderate Democrats who would often vote like Republicans, and there's almost none of them left. Certainly not in the Senate. I mean, you have Fetterman now and then, but not that often. But still now and then, and he's from Pennsylvania. But, you know, they're in a purification mode, just like the Islamists. You got that kid who's the number 2 at the DNC. I think it's great. You know, if he wants to throw grenades in his own home, that's up to him. Political grenades, that's up to him. And if AOC and Bernie Sanders think that their ideology is the ideology of the future, when in fact it is a primitive, barbaric ideology that has resulted in the death of 100 million people, that's fine. Mark, what are you talking? Marxists. They're Marxists. Hey, gets very offended when I call her a Marxist. And she won't even refer to me, which is fine. What do I... She says, they're calling me a Marxist. They're calling me a Marxist. Because you are a Marxist, you jerk. What do you want me to call you? Or whatever you want me to call you, I won't. But the fact of the matter is that's what she is. Just like Raskin. Just like Bernie. Just like Bernie Sanders. Bernard. Oh, yes. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey. Dumb as a doorknob, just like the governor of New York. Listen to this one. Cut 4, go.
You know, as somebody who wants America to thrive, I believe that America is the greatest country. Do Democrats in office really want America to thrive when they're trashing our founding, when they're trashing our economic system, when they're trashing our border, when they're trashing us? How is it that they want us to thrive? Seriously, what do they do to help us thrive? I'm being quite serious. How do they get us to thrive economically? Militarily, or any other way? They don't. Go ahead. Donald Trump is making us less competitive because right now, Kate, I'll tell you what's happening on our campuses.
Tell us. Yeah.
China is on our campuses, recruiting our scientists, recruiting the postdocs, recruiting all the folks.
Okay, slow down there, genius. China's on our campuses recruiting these people. Now just think about that sentence for a second. We have people in our colleges who are getting these educations, and they're willing to work for China, the communist regime that has 2.5 million Uyghurs in prison camps and death camps, that is destroying what's left of Christianity, that has eliminated, for all intents and purposes, one ethnic group after another. They're recruiting people off our campuses. Maybe they ought to go. But that's not what they're doing. They're buying our colleges and universities, as is Qatar. Not enough is being said about Qatar. I will keep talking about Qatar. They're buying our colleges and universities, and that's the problem. So Governor Mental Patient here, she would rather you believe that Donald Trump is causing people on our campuses to go work for the Communist Chinese. I mean, seriously, folks? Makes you wonder how anybody could be a governor, right? I mean, anybody can be a governor, I guess. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin, the conscience of conservatism. Call Mark now at 877-381-3811.
Let's go to Bob, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, the great KXEL. Go, go, go.
Hey, great one. First, I want to thank you for standing in the gap for all patriots.
Well,
and congrats on becoming an advisor to the Trump team.
Well, let me just clarify that, because there was a goofy article today that was written suggesting I'm on the national security team. I'm not on any national security team. I'm not an employee of the administration. I don't get paid by the administration. This is my job, one of many, right here, Blaze, Fox, and Author. Those 4 jobs. and father and husband, but I don't consider that a job. I have agreed to a voluntary position to be on an advisory council to the Department of Homeland Security. That's what I've agreed to do. We haven't had a meeting yet. We will in the near future. I'm not part of any national security team. This article said there was the difference is the fighting that's occurring around Trump with his national security team, especially with Mark Levin. I'm not on the national security team. I give my opinion. My opinion on Iran has been the same for 10 years. By the way, Bob, I posted a photo of me the first time I met Donald Trump, 2015, at the Capitol, outside, where we had a massive Tea Party event. I'd never met him before. And we shook hands, and my beautiful wife was standing right next to me. And that was a Tea Party massive rally against Iran. Against Iran. Nothing has changed from my perspective. It's the same viewpoint, that their nuclear sites need to be taken out. That's the only way we can be sure that they won't be used now or 5 years from now. But that's Mark. That's my view. Anyway, go right ahead, Bob.
Yeah, no, I understand. But anyway, and at the end of your shows, I appreciate you thanking the mother truckers because I are one. Anyway, the reason I was thinking that Cal Thomas about a month ago mentioned the idea of a fireside chat for President Trump to be able to, talk to the people in the Oval Office. I don't know how long ago it's been done, but just tell people about his common sense agenda directly to the American people without all the reporters barking around him. So that was all I wanted to see.
It's not a bad idea. And Cal Thomas is a absolutely brilliant man, dear friend.
Like you.
And Cal, I will see you next time in Florida, I promise. You and your beautiful wife. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, God bless you, Mark. I appreciate everything you do. And I just listen to you every night. I retired 7 years ago selling billboard advertising and the nickname Billboard Bob in Cedar Rapids. But
wow.
Then I started driving semi part-time, and somebody said I was semi-retired. So that was kind of funny. But anyway.
I don't know how people drive those things. It would scare the hell out of me. I remember being in Key West with my wife a couple of years back. Guy's got this big 18-wheeler, and these streets are tight. And he's driving, got a big smile on his face, happy guy, seems happy-go-lucky. He's making a turn, and I yelled to him, "How the hell do you drive this thing?" And he says, "Very carefully." And that was that.
Oh. Yeah, well, I know it's fun to kind of, sometimes you can intimidate people off the road. No, I don't do that.
Oh, I bet. Yes. All right,
I don't know if you can hear my air horn. I'm going to honk it once.
Go do it. I love it.
Okay.
Love it.
Love you, man. Thank you.
You too, brother. Take care of yourself. I love the truckers. Everywhere I go, just love these guys and gals. Let's go to Pete, Bay Area, California, the great KSFO. Pete, go right ahead, please.
Great one. Thank you very much for doing what you're doing, brother.
Thank you.
Stan has gone back into the government and Russia's past. You're the man. You're on point. Two things real quick. What are we going to do when the Supreme Court doesn't follow the Constitution, doesn't follow the articles of the Constitution? That's number one. Number two, who is advising Trump on Ukraine? I think you've got to keep hitting him on that 8,000-word document that Putin put out. He wants to reconstitute Russia, and talking is not going to stop him.
No.
So,
and look, let me put it this way. First of all, if the Supreme Court doesn't do the right thing, Congress has got to step in. And the Republicans have got to get very aggressive and very sharp about this and try and use the budgetary reconciliation process to defund some of these district judges and send a message. They created them. They can defund them. That's how you avoid the Senate filibuster. And I'm going to keep hammering away here, baby. You know, I'm the one who started it behind this microphone and on Fox and on Blaze, pounding away at these district judges. I could see it coming when the first one came out of the blocks, and I could see how these litigators are bringing these cases. I could smell it a mile away, and there it is. And as to your second point, who's advising President Trump on Ukraine? I mean, there's a number of people. There are differences of opinion, as I understand it. just by the nature of the character of each of these people around the president, have different views about it. But I think ultimately it's the president's view. And the truth is, my support for the Ukrainian people is solid. It will remain. They are the victims here. They were attacked. They didn't provoke a damn thing. They gave up their nukes to Russia. Putin has said what he wants to do. You're very sharp, Pete. Putin has written a document. He's explained what he wants to do. Hey, Pete, how come we don't accept what these guys tell us they're going to do? Putin says what he's going to do, and he's doing it. The Islamo-Nazis in Iran say what they're going to do, and they're trying to do it. Why do we pretend that they're not doing what they say they want to do?
Well, I'll tell you what, Mark. I blame Congress. I blame our government. Man up. You got to man up. I look at what happened. I'm a veteran. I look at all those stones in Arlington, and I think of those judges walking all over the Constitution. What are those guys sacrificed for? Plus the debacle in Afghanistan. What does that tell our enemies? And China is doing right now what Japan did shooting at us in World War II. They're not even doing that. They're building the islands. They're working the plan that Japan had.
You're right. And let me tell you something. Economically, because of their geographic positions, their first goal is going to be to choke us off and then say, what the hell are you going to do about it?
Well, I'll tell you what, like I said, this government is an embarrassment. I look at Afghanistan, the veterans. I'm a veteran of the first Gulf War in the Marine Corps. I look what they did to our vets. They're suffering. And like I said, Afghanistan was a disaster.
Isn't it amazing how much attention, though, they'll pay on illegal immigrants who beat their wives and are members of MS-13? And our vets get, how much attention do our vets get from Van Hollen or Presley or any of these buffoons? Almost none, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I look at it this way, Mark. They're the children. They're the children that scream and cry and kick and incite. And what they're doing is criminal. Like I said, I just want the adults in the room to settle things, get some order here, and do what you got to do. They're not part of the country. The Democrats are gone. They're Marxists. You've been calling it for years. They're not interested in this country. And I liken it to the mob. What the mob does is they sell everything out like they did to us in our manufacturing. Then when they get down to the end, they burn it down. That's what they do to the stores that they loot and rob. That's exactly what these guys are doing. Look at our dollar. Look at the disaster that the dollar is. And people, when Brexit, the BRICS people, if they get off the dollar, we're in trouble.
All right, brother. I appreciate you. Good stuff. Smart dude there, Pete. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Let's go back to the gene pool, shall we? I think we shall. Ken, Waterbury, Connecticut, XM Satellite. Ken, how are you, sir?
Oh, my God, what a blessing, Mark. I can't believe I got through to you. I have so much respect for you, sir. I feel so blessed to have the opportunity to speak to you. I don't want to burn up too much of your time, Mark. Really, really quick. You know, I just keep laughing about all these universities, protesting, and they're pro-Hamas. I mean, it is what it is.
Yep.
About, shaming Israel for defending themselves for what happened to them and whatnot. But I don't see any of these colleges being up in arms about all the Ukrainians who are dying left and right from Russian missiles. And it's just so, listen, I hate pulling this card, but let's just be honest. Is this a race thing? Is it the media doesn't care, the college kids don't care because it's white on white? Or is it, they're all up in arms because it's a Muslim population that's being hurt, if you will, even though that population...
I think maybe they like Russia. Maybe they like Putin. I mean, after all, we're talking about Marxists and Islamists. Maybe they're rooting for Russia. But you make a very interesting point in this respect. The Ukrainians are the victims. These are innocent people. They're not attacking the Russians. They're not attacking anybody. They're trying to defend themselves, their homeland, their family, their property. Their churches that are being destroyed, synagogues. I don't understand. Just from a bully victim perspective, we Americans, we never side with the bully. we help the victim against the bully. If we see it in the street, we see it in a bus, we see it in a restaurant. Putin is evil. He's a killer. He has said what he wants to do. And in order to get to Poland, in order to get to Latvia and Estonia, Lithuania, in order to get to Romania, he has to go through Ukraine. And that's what he says he intends to do. So you talk about World War III, that would trigger World War III. That's why you have fools like Mike Lee, senator from Utah, saying we ought to get out of NATO. No, Russia ought to get out of Ukraine. That's what ought to happen. That's what real red-blooded Americans believe and say, who have ancestors who fought and bled in Europe and other places during World War II. You don't just give up land to the enemy. You don't just give up fellow allies to the enemy, free peoples to the enemy. It's so insane. And history is on our side. It's not even ancient history. It's relatively new history. But it is interesting, you're right, that there aren't protests in the streets and at these colleges on behalf of Ukraine. And I'll tell you why. It's the Jew hatred. That's what it is. It's the Jew hatred on these colleges and universities. Like Columbia, their Marxist roots go back literally to the 1930s and 40s. Harvard, their Jew hatred and their support, quite frankly, for the Third Reich goes back to the 1930s. These colleges have a history that's been written about, that I have amplified, that nobody else wants to talk about. They have a history. So it is this contempt, this hate for the Jews. And when we're importing people with open borders from the Middle East, and they come into this country, as this guy Khalil did, and among others, who are being defended by the Democrats, who are being defended by the very institutions that bring them into this country, who are being defended by the American media, it's all one and the same. It's the same problem in the 1930s happening right here, soon to be in the 2030s. Ken, thank you, my friend. Great call. How much time do I have, Rich? Okay, let's try and slip one in real fast. Let's go to Robert, St. Joseph, Missouri, XM Satellite, really fast. Go.
Hi. I think Trump's been fighting these people by himself, and I think that he needs to use the American people and put in a couple of constitutional amendments. And
well, there's only two ways under Article 5. One is through Congress, and the other is through the state legislatures. And the Convention of States, one of my favorite groups with one of my favorite people, Mark Meckler, has been fighting to get to that point. They haven't gotten there yet. So that won't happen before Trump leaves office either way. So my view is that Congress needs to step in and eliminate some of these courtrooms, starting with Boasberg, maybe Chutkan, and start picking these people off and stop being so frightened, or we're going to lose this country. All right, Robert, thank you for your call. So there are things that can be done. You know, people say, well, Congress has, well, then do something, Congress. Do something more than just, you know, national injunctions we're going to outlaw. We haven't done that yet. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine. Yes, Ukraine. The men and women in Israel. Yes, Israel. And you, the American people. The great American people. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you tomorrow. God bless.